Hey, Corey, come read the Drift app.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Drift Outfitters in downtown Toronto, Ontario. Drift Outfitters is your source for all things fly fishing. From waders and boots to thread and feathers, Drift has it all. Check in on their website for their latest updates and policy regarding shopping during the pandemic. Curbside pickup for your online and phone orders is a great way to get the gear you need. And they're shipping for free across Canada on orders over $175. Visit driftoutfitters.com to learn more. driftoutfitters.com. That one's pretty good, I think.
Hello and welcome to another episode of So Fly. It is the end of December. Actually, this show's coming out on New Year's Day, so Happy New Year's, everybody.
Happy New Year's!
Happy New Year's! My name is Mitch. We've got Aldo.
Happy New Year! But yes, hello, thank you.
We got Yo.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome, Nick.
Yeah, we're very excited to be chatting with a special guest today on the show. We've got Nick Price. Nick Price is a photographer and guide based out of Sutton Valley, Idaho. Nick was born and raised in Santa Barbara, California, and studied for a year at the University of Washington. He took a semester off to spend a couple months in a cabin on the Middle Fork of the Salmon River in Idaho. It's there that he dove into a whole pile of books, including one of his all-time favorites, The River Why. He went on to the University of Montana in Missoula to study fiction while working in a local fly shop, and it's there in Missoula where he met his now wife of 25 years, and they have two sons together, 19 and 17. Nick's guided full-time since his college days, but Nick is also one heck of a good photographer and got into the photo game later in life. He began seriously shooting about 15 years ago and became totally passionate about the pursuit to capture burning fly fishing imagery. Nick speaks about guiding and photography as the only two real jobs he's had. Sounds like two pretty good real jobs to me. Today, Nick is on SoFly. Nick, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Kind of really excited to see where we go with this whole conversation, but really excited to be here. Thanks.
Oh yeah, no. So you're calling in you're in Sutton Valley, Idaho right now.
I'm in Sun Valley, Idaho. Yeah, just south, really, a town called Haley, but most people would know of Sun Valley. Yeah.
And how's life down there right now? Are you fishing? Are you doing any outdoor stuff?
Skiing?
Life is good. We finally have snow. We just got over last year. It was probably one of the driest years we had in, 75 years. Don't really know the exact number, so kind of a bummer, but just got a good storm.
Yep.
Had 3 to 4 feet kind of in town the other day, and good kickoff, even though the kickoff started late, so kind of nice.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
I mean 3 to 4 feet of snow. Geez, that's like quite a bit of snow.
Yeah, it was a good storm for sure. It was really on top of nothing, but good start.
Yeah. I mean, like you're hanging out in Sutton Valley, but we know we actually were talking before, obviously, the show, and you just did a trip down with Joe from Costa, and you were shooting with Costa.
Yeah, I was just down in Magdalena Bay, got back, I think just about exactly a week ago. So I've been kind of editing nonstop since I got back.
Oh, amazing. Oh, wow. How was the trip? Like, was it totally incredible?
The trip was, in short, I'd say it was insanity. I mean, the guys, we were with a group of guys, they're called Los Locos. That's actually their business name. Americans guiding down there, but they involve Mexican captains. They involve the community, which is really, really cool. But they were named Los Locos because the locals kept calling them Loco.
Okay, so what makes them Loco?
Well, I mean, the energy, for one, is nonstop, which is great. I mean, you don't have to participate in that energy. It doesn't start like first thing in the morning, but it's just this great vibe of let's go, let's do this. We're in a rad place. Even if today the conditions are perfect, we're going to go have a blast. And that's kind of that's the starting point. And that's how it was, nonstop. And so Joe was a part of that. He brought out some other Costa guys, a couple guides from the Keys, Brandon Sear and Nick LeBady, another photographer.
Cool.
Cody Rubner. Yeah, it was a blast. I was there for, I think, 9 days.
Yeah, Joe was sending me some photos over, like he was DMing me photos and stuff from Instagram, and you guys were fishing for. It looked wild.
Yeah, I mean, well, there are
marlin
different
fishing,
components. Right? Well, yeah, one of the components is blue water marlin fishing.
Wow.
And so we kind of scored most of the time I was there. They weren't too far out.
Yeah.
But just seeing, I mean, that's where the insanity comes into play too. You're kind of just motoring out for an hour and a half and then Shazam! It's
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
So did you get to do fishing yourself, or were you mainly behind the lens?
Well, for that component, all 100% behind the lens, which is, I mean, it's like, imagine having one photographer at 10 weddings. That much is going on. It's
Oh
just,
my God, that's a great analogy.
yeah.
It's tough
so,
to
I mean,
kind of cover it all.
behind the lens is fun. I mean, I've been lucky enough. I've been down there before. I've caught marlin on the fly, and that was a blast. So being able to shoot it,
Yeah.
get in the water, and then also shoot it from the air with the drone, you go, oh, wow, that's what this
Yeah.
bait ball, that's what these fish look like from
Yeah,
the air. It's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Right.
Oh, that's super cool. I mean, I definitely want to talk about like like the difference between your photography passion and fly fishing passion. But maybe first we just like start at the beginning. Did you get into fly fishing before the cabin on the Salmon River, or was it there that you discovered fly fishing?
Well, so growing up in Santa Barbara, lucky we had an old Mako that always broke down, but I don't know how old I was when we got it. If I was in 4th grade, I'm not really good with dates, years, but so we have Channel Islands out there. So grew up surfing, using the boat to go fishing. Wasn't really fly fishing, but always going out. Just that was part of life, doing that all the time. And probably when I was in 3rd grade, we got this cabin. I mean, no electricity, right on the Middle Fork of the Salmon, kind of a dreamy river. I don't know if you know about it, in a giant roadless wilderness area that you have to fly to get into.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of there that I started fly. I mean, I was terrible. I was a hack fly fishing, and
I still am. Don't worry.
and that's, I'd say from there on, it was no turning back for sure.
Yeah.
Just visiting there. Yeah.
So the folks, did your folks, did they fly fish, or like they had this remote cabin? Like, were they wilderness people? Like, why did they have this
I'd
cabin?
be thinking it just attracted them. You fly in a little Cessna on a dirt airstrip. Yeah, I mean, the fishing there is on the easier side for these cutthroat, but no one was around in those days.
Yeah.
There's some whitewater float trips that go through, and so you occasionally see them. You see more of them now. But I think the whole thing attracted them, including the fishing. But,
Right.
you know, groceries were flown in with you. There's an air mail run. I remember begging the pilot to take me on that. That was insane.
Wow.
So all the components were really cool, including
Yeah,
the fishing.
that sounds amazing. Oh my God,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
a remote thing. So in Santa Barbara, then, like, what was the fishing like there? Like, it was, it's all surf stuff.
No, I mean, there is that. I never really got into surf fishing. I did it a little with friends. I'm too ADD to like that. Or surf casting with spin rods. So no, we'd go to the Channel Islands, troll for halibut, I guess.
Gotcha.
That's same category. Rockfish, you name it.
Right.
Yep.
Right. That's pretty cool. So it was mostly just like fly fish. It wasn't mostly fly fishing. It was mostly gear fishing down there.
Oh, at that point in my life, absolutely all of it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it about fly fishing that kind of took you, like, why did you fall in love with it? Like, what was it about the sport that made you want to keep doing it?
Yeah, I mean, there are probably a lot of, I've thought about this question a ton, by the way. And it's not easy. Probably everyone you ask says or has a little different answer, but I think the place has to do with it for sure. I mean, are you asking me what I thought then? Because I certainly think about it differently now, too.
Maybe. What did you think about it then, and what do you think about it now? How does it change? Because it is a dynamic thing, like it's a weird. It's something we like to ask everybody because it's like, it is kind of like a strange thing. What is it about fly fishing that's so alluring,
Right.
Like your motivations change over time, right? So,
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I just want to spew out an answer that sounds more mature
sure.
now. It certainly didn't have it then. But maybe I
Why
don't
do you
have
like
it
fly
now either.
fishing? I like catching fish.
Yeah.
At the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, but I think at this cabin on the Middle Fork, certainly in other places, number one, it was the freedom. I mean, I'd just take off for the day. I'd
Right.
have a couple flies. I don't even know if I knew how to tie a blood knot at the time. I just splice leader with whatever I could figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'd take off. I'd walk for miles, and I might come back at dark. So I think the fishing was certainly one component because I loved it and tried to figure out what the fish were eating, kind of the science of it. But I wasn't, that geeky then about it. And then the freedom in the place. I mean, it's just a stunning, beautiful place combined with so few people around. It just blew me away. I mean, I didn't want to stop doing it. So I'd say the combination of the looks, I was solitary, sometimes with a family member or friend, and then the fishing component itself.
So much
Yeah,
better.
it does put you into that.
Yeah, and then of course, I'm sure a lot of us say this, an activity where you're not thinking about anything else other than what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, the flow
So-
state.
Yeah. Well, and it's still that, which is cool.
Yeah, it's still that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then after those months at the cabin, you're like, I'm gonna go move to Missoula and go to guide school, or
Well, I mean, guide school. I worked in a fly shop. I
Oh, right,
had
fly
my
shop,
limited. Yeah.
yeah.
And that was kind of guide school. I mean, just being around
Of
people
course.
who are doing it for a living, and you have this hack me showing up. But that's how we all start. I did. You don't know that at the time, but yeah, my guide school was working. I worked in a shop for 3 years there
Awesome.
while in school. Yeah, it was great experience. Still talk to some of the people who work there.
Oh, the
Pretty
shop's
cool.
still around?
Well, shop's still around. I think it's 3 owners later. Don't quote me on that,
Oh, wow.
but it's certainly a different owner. Yeah.
That's cool. So it just keeps changing hands. That's dope.
Well, I'm dating myself. I have lived here. This is going to be my 26th year, I want to say. So it's been a while.
So you
Yeah.
met your wife in Missoula as well. Is she fly angler as well, or?
A little bit. She grew up on the Bigwood River here in Sun Valley. Can fly fish. Actually is a great little caster, but doesn't fish a ton. No.
Right on.
Too many other things going on.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
do the kids fly fish too, or does
One
anyone
of
else in
them's
your
more
family?
obsessed than the other. I have 2 sons. One's 19, one's 17, and my 17-year-old definitely likes it more. But he's also obsessed with other things like kayaking and water sports. So is the 19-year-old,
Sick.
but
that's,
just
that's
not
great.
so much the fly fishing for him.
Outdoors.
An outdoor life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Family.
that's our life, even if it's not
Yeah.
exactly always fishing. Yeah, skiing,
It's good. Skiing,
Backpacking.
snowboarding.
skiing. Not against riding, but it's just always been skiing. My younger son Charlie tried outboarding, I think, for a season, but it's just gone back to
I mean, ski culture is huge down there, right? Like it's a pretty big deal in that area, eh?
Yeah, I mean, so my older son's out of the house essentially, but younger son Charlie is on a team, so he competes. It's called Big Mountain Skiing, and he's off pretty soon, I think, to go to team.
Yeah.
This
on.
morning. Yeah.
Right on.
That's awesome.
Okay, so like looking back at your kind of fly fishing life, like has there like what are some of the more standout moments? You know, like we talk about the cabin, and that was like obviously a very critical place in developing your passion for fly fishing. What are some other moments if you look back and think like, oh man, that was a good trip, or like that year was like a big one for me on the rivers?
Yeah, sure. I think it wasn't like a huge moment. It was probably going to school at the University of Montana, and I didn't choose it necessarily for the fishing. It was like I wanted to be a writer at the time, so I went there for this cool fiction program. And what I appreciated about it, and still do, is people took what they did seriously, but they didn't take themselves seriously. But that doesn't really answer your question. But I think over the course of the first year, going, oh my gosh, this is my new backyard. I mean, that was huge. So it was. There are 4. I don't know if you know the area much. There's the Clark Fork, the Bitterroot, Blackfoot, Rock Creek, all within at least, Rock Creek's about a half an hour away. So the other 3 are really close. So there's a lot of water around.
Yeah, that's a pretty exceptional place to go to school, especially if you just kind of you went there for writing, and then you're like, oh wow, look at this fly fishing thing.
Well, I
It's
knew
like,
about it, so it was, but it was not
yeah.
like I'm going to fish, and I
Right,
just, I kind of,
right.
I
People
scored.
do. A lot of people do. A lot of people make that choice. We've met a lot of people that are like, I went to this school because the river was here. Like, it's kind of a funny
Yeah,
thing.
huge
but,
perk for sure.
Is it safe
So-
to say? Oh, sorry, Mitch.
Oh,
No,
go
go
ahead,
Say-
Aldo, please.
Is it safe to say the University of Montana is more of a creative school? Because you read about in the Fly Fish Journal, or we talk to guests who have gone there, and it's usually like, oh, I went there for writing, oh, I went there for photography, or they went there for outdoors something.
Right.
Like, it just seems like a more of a, from the outside looking in, like it exports a lot of creatives. Let's just say.
I think it
into this
does.
realm.
Even the art
Yeah.
program, I want to say, is strong, and that's so. University of Montana's Missoula, Montana State's in Bozeman. Not really going to compare them, but at the time, I think the University of Montana had top 10 fiction writing program in the country, and who would think that this little school in Missoula, Montana, would have novelists walking around town and all these great
Right.
poets and writers? Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
definitely
it's
got
pretty
that
cool.
cool, funky vibe. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's neat. We have talked to people that have gone there. I think didn't John Gira go to school in Montana? I could have sworn he said he did.
If I had to guess, I'd say no, but I don't remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can't remember either.
I mean, yeah.
Um,
I think I would know.
Well,
but-
So you wanted to become a writer. Where did that, like after school, where did you go from there? Like, did you follow writing for a while?
Not really, but I applied to a graduate writing program back east. So from Missoula, I mean, it was kind of U-Hauls for a little while, just seasonal. Came to Sun Valley with my now wife for a summer. She said, why don't you just come work in a fly shop in Sun Valley rather than Missoula? Did that all along knowing I was accepted into this program in Massachusetts. Drove back there, got my financial aid statements, and I went 3 years of financial aid for fiction.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in debt. I was a fly shop guy. I had no money. And the debt absolutely scared me. And at the time, I had a professor, or my last year at Missoula, said, why the fuck do you want to go spend all this money on a degree when you can just send your work to me? But I'll write you a great letter of recommendation, he said. And so I went, checked it out, said no gracias, drove back from Massachusetts, never started. And I never looked back on the guiding thing. The writing thing fizzled. I probably didn't have the passion that it would take to keep writing and have that mundane job, whatever it is. So
Mitch does that every day.
Oh,
Not
really?
like that though. Not like that though. No, like I know what you mean. Like like creative writers. I mean, Jesus, like it can be a slog. You might never reach that like commercial success, but you have to kind of keep trusting that you might.
I wasn't even looking for success or notoriety. I was just looking, please myself, I guess. The first step. Yeah.
So when did you go back to guiding then? Like,
I just never stopped. So from working at a fly shop in Missoula, kind of the clerk behind the counter, to doing a few more guide trips in Missoula, not many, and then moving to Sun Valley, same thing, kind of working at a fly shop, doing a few guide trips, and then all of a sudden it's full time over the course of a few years. Yeah. So really never stopped.
How has your guiding like kind of journey been? Like, are you is that like a gig that, because you mentioned you have two real jobs really only in your life, it's guiding and photography. Has guiding been like a, I mean, obviously you're still doing it, but has that been a nice kind of experience?
Well, I love it. I think I'm curious about people. I mean, a lot of our water, number one, for those who don't know, the Sun Valley area is smaller, so we walk and wade a ton.
Right.
And in so doing, we're with these people and close. We're like their de facto psychologists for the day, and they open up and talk. So I'd say 9 out of 10 times, outside of just the fishing experience, the social experience is really cool. So I enjoy both. I mean, I've seen the fishing around here for so long. What makes it not get stale, I think, would be the social experience. And then as a photographer, kind of enjoying, the light's not always rad, but looking around, there's always something to think and look at.
That's such an interesting way to think about guiding. Like, I don't think we've spoke to a lot of guides, and we've never talked about that idea of the social interaction, where it's just like, you might have kind of like big conversations on the water, because it's true. If it's like one-on-one and you're fly fishing, that's such a conducive environment to like just have these kind of bigger conversations about whatever,
Oh, absolutely.
Does that happen a lot?
Well, I'd say most days.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the times I find myself kind of in awe at the conversation, like how vulnerable this person's willing to be with me, just this, guide photographer dude standing on the bank of the river with him. But it's cool.
Maybe that's also just like you maybe you have something about you that unlocks that. But I mean, you're like just explaining like, standing on a quiet river for 8 hours, like people maybe, that makes sense that they would open up,
Yeah. And you just said quiet river. A lot of the time it's funny. It's not quiet. The sound of the river is like a small jet engine. Come home, trying to talk over people. I go, I'm not talking over the river anymore.
Yeah.
Do you do most of your guiding? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, fellas, but from writing to photography, or has photography always just been in your wheelhouse ever since you were young?
No, it hasn't. I mean, I had a film camera that I'd mess around with as a kid, but I mean, it'd be one roll of film a year. So no, was not in my wheelhouse at all. But the connection, I think, one of the cool things I learned in the writing program was humility, and was taught over and over. You just send this work in. You're going to be lucky if you even get a response saying no.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I got thick skin, I think, there. And that, I think the passion of photography just struck. And I went, wow, I have this cool background where I don't care if I stink. I just love doing this. And so the combination of those two things, I just took off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think for every creative person, I think that is a definite lesson. I think that's the only way to progress and be successful, is to take those sort of like, humble critiques, with your work. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then eventually learning who to listen to.
That too.
Your work. But that's
that too. That's
so a
great
lot
point.
of what I learned in the fiction program parlays to photography outside of really no words, commas, and images. Yeah.
A lot of crossover. I mean, so how did you, like, with going to photography, did you like get into, because now you're selling images to, you were just on the cover of the Fly Fish Journal recently with a beautiful image.
No, it's full-time, close to work. And my guiding is definitely, the number of guide days I'm doing is definitely going down.
Yeah.
But I guess I didn't let you finish your question either. So
No. Yeah. That's exactly it. Like, it's great. It's super cool that it turned into a, like a job, like a legitimate job, as opposed to just sort of like, doing it because I love it for a bit. How did that progression take off? Like, how did you start? You just like, I'm going to grab my camera, go to local rivers.
Well, I'm lucky because I have a lot of rivers right here in my backyard. I also guide them. And so I know as a guide, typically, not always, it's fishing, when to be where. Yeah. So if it's shooting a certain hatch locally, I already knew kind of the rough dates, when to show up. If I was going to have an evening not guiding or a day not guiding, I knew when to show up. Friends of mine who were guides just became my subjects. So really quickly, I became, without trying to, a documentary style photographer. I shouldn't say never, but seldomly would say, do this, do that. I had to train my mind to get the image when it happened in front of me. And if it didn't, it's like, well, I missed that opportunity. I have to learn how to recognize when my shot's coming without bothering whoever I'm with.
And did you find that you were able to fake it often, like do this, do that? Or was the better image always just the documentary grabbing when it's happening?
Do this. Well, I didn't do any do this, do that. And I think all my work,
always. Yeah,
back then I just think it all, even at the time, I just said, this stinks. But I kept doing it. And, with online classes these days, you can learn so much from post-processing, editing to whatever it is you want to figure out about shooting. So I looked at photographers I really admire. And just kind of as motivation, how to get this. Yeah. Do
you have a few you want to list?
Well, I think what's funny is a lot of them are not fly fishing photographers. Not that I don't admire them, but like the Steve McCurry of National Geographic and portraits. I love people shots and portrait shots. If I could do travel stuff too, more of it, of kind of the less of the fishing stuff, for sure. And there's another guy, Frederick Lagrange, who has a portfolio on Mongolia that's just absolutely blown me away. But so it's people, and I think the photographers who their images that elicit an emotion in me. With like Instagram, we have this constant scroll. An example would be all of a sudden, I don't know if it happens to you guys, but when you just stop at an image. Oh yeah. So if I'm looking over someone's shoulder and they stop, I'd love to know why. What makes them just stop right there?
And that's a great question. What do you think makes, let's say, a great fly fishing photo? Because, photography is a huge thing, but like what makes a thumb-stopping fly fishing photo?
Hold on, let me get my notepad, Mitch, for this. I got to take notes.
Totally. We're recording.
Yeah. I think it's different for all of us. You have goals that I have they'd be hard to list off right now in this podcast. In the back of my head, I'd need a second to think about it, but the shots I want to get. But I think a lot of the time, the answer to the question is it's different for every viewer. So there's the photographer trying to get the image. A lot of the time we get attached to the image. Like I have 5 shots that I thought would make great cover shots, whatever. Never happened with those shots. So I thought they were great, but other viewers, editor have not. So from my perspective, there's one thing as the photographer. From the viewer, the answer I think is some emotional connection. And I think a lot of the time people talk about color, light, and composition. The fourth, maybe the biggest for me, probably the biggest for me, is the emotional connection. You can have an image out of focus. There's a great image by a photographer named Keith Carter called Fireflies. These kids with this jar full of fireflies by a river, and they're looking at them. But the kids are out of focus. But it elicits such strong emotion. It's a great image.
I wonder,
flawed,
like,
but
because you were.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I see it. Yeah, it's very famous.
I'm Googling
photo.
it right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
Fireflies.
it's great.
Keith
Oh,
Carter. That's
you guys
awesome.
are quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
We're
that's a
we're like
super
dual
cool photo.
screen Google daddies here. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's a great
No, you're absolutely
photographer,
right.
and the shot's insane. It's a film shot, but
Yeah.
so a lot of the time it's accepting the flaws. Another photographer said that, so I'm stealing it from him. But
Accepting the flaws. That's such a good way to look at it. 'Cause
especially
you're right,
in this
you know,
digital era where most of us
Yeah.
are just going sharp, sharp, sharp.
Yes.
Whereas like stepping back, I often need a week. Like after Magdalena Bay shooting for Kostitz, now that it's been a week, I can kind of absorb the images. And if there is some emotion there, it's like, oh wow,
Yeah.
I did capture that in this image.
Yeah, and there's been such like an uptrend in technical ability and like production value. I've found just like as gear's gotten more accessible and more people have gotten into it, it's like everybody's just trying to be like hyper produced, you know? But it's like I'm getting really excited because the photos and the videos that are starting to bubble up are the ones that are like maybe
More
less
creative.
technically like amazing, and they're just more interesting like from a
They tell
like a piece of
better narrative.
content perspective. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. There's maybe more soul
Yeah.
and heart in them, and that, ultimately that's what I'm shooting for. But it's not. I mean, that's not easy to get.
Well, I mean, yeah, everybody listening, like, go check out Nick Price Photography on Instagram because your images are incredible. Your travel ones are awesome. I think the humanity, like, you're right, capture that beautifully. Really nice stuff, man. I love it.
Storytelling.
thank you.
Storytelling in a photograph is incredibly hard. How do you tell? How do you tell the viewers that this is what's happening in one shot? And I think maybe your writing background probably helped with that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So my older son just got back from 3 months in Chile. I said, "Did you take any pictures?" He said, "Not really." And I said, "What do you mean, not really?" So he had about, I don't know if they're 80 iPhone shots. And he started showing me a few of the images, the ones that got me. And he said they're terrible, number one. So I'm not trying to tout him as a photographer. But some Chilean on a bus, you can't see his or her face. You see the hands. Then you see the background of the mountains and the hands and the gray clothes. I go, I know that person lives in Chile. I can tell the gender by the hands. I can get a rough estimate to the age of that person by the hands. I love the mystery that I couldn't see him. And then the mountains. Then you see the dirt road. Then you're in kind of, it's not a dilapidated bus, but not a great bus. And to me, it's like, Will, you just captured that story without even thinking about it. So
Yeah.
That's a really interesting point too. Like so many pictures are being taken nowadays with cell phones and stuff like that. Like there's got to be like every once in a while you see a banging iPhone photo and you're just like, that was such an awesome mistake, you know?
Yeah.
It's a kind of a funny thing too. But yeah, I love that.
yeah, and a lot of the time, I mean, in the era of likes, the image I'm talking about of his is not going to garner a lot of likes, but I certainly liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
cool.
I mean that's another good point. Yeah, we you know we'll post photos from some of our favorite photographers. You know, most recently, you know, we shot with our buddy Joel. And you know they do pretty well. And then I'll post a picture of like Mitch with a coffee in his hand on our Instagram, and it's like 200 likes. You're like, what?
What?
Why? How? Yeah, like what the
It's
what
just
the
Mitch
fuck?
like this with a
Right.
fly rod
That
in his
doesn't make any
hand,
sense.
and you're like,
Makes no
Behind the
sense.
scenes, or seeing
Yeah.
who you guys. So maybe that's more story, though.
yeah, exactly.
Who you guys really
Maybe.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I think we're interested in that as humans consuming media.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you find yourself over the years, and maybe it's a kind of a tough question to answer, but grabbing the camera more or the rod more going out and fishing?
Oh,
on
for
trips.
sure. I mean, that's an easy answer now, but it wasn't 7, 8, 9 years ago. I mean, it's the camera now, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've been lucky. About 5 years. Occasionally, I've written pieces for magazines too. And about, I don't know if it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I just shot an email to the kind of the grandfather of fly fishing photography, Val Atkinson. I said, "Hey, can I come down and meet you, do a story on you?" We've kind of hit it off since then. He's become a mentor of mine, and he always said, "Nick, you just can't do everything at once. You can't fish and shoot at once." And so that really
Yeah.
stayed with me because I guess you could, but as far as my mindset, I'm just happy shooting. How about that? Plus, my mindset is on shooting at that point.
Yeah.
Right. And so like because it's become more of a job, that hasn't gotten more, it hasn't deterred you from it. Like you still, like it hasn't gotten in the way of fly fishing. Photography is still very
No,
much.
it's enhanced it, if anything. I mean, I've been lucky as a guide to have that income. So if it was only, especially to start photography, yeah, I probably would have been shooting things I didn't want to photograph. And then that's that's where it might, you just put your chin down and go, I'll grin and bear it, I'll do the shoot or whatever. And photograph things you might ordinarily not want to.
So do you have like an agenda laid out right now? Like, do you have some like steps that you want to, like goals you're looking forward to or things you're trying to hit? Like, what is the kind of like future of your photography game? Or is it just kind of like roll with the punches?
Well, it's probably a combination of both. I mean, I'm constantly learning, editing. If I'm not shooting every day, it's editing. So it's kind of, a great photographer calls that visual push-ups. And so Jay Mizell in New York said that. So I think it's like the analogy of going to the gym. Maybe some people have a goal of getting a bicep so big. I mean, I'm not a gym rat. So to parlay that into my photography, no, I don't really have those goals other than I'm nonstop. And as far as the learning, the shooting, kind of learning more about post, you name it.
Right.
Now you mentioned you want to shoot more travel as well. Like, does that exotic destinations, or is that like if you had one place you could go and shoot travel, someone's like, here's a check, go do this gig, where would that be?
Well, I mean, the easy answer that's kind of a cop-out is somewhere new to me. I love places I haven't been. And it's also not a cop-out because I love being a little bit outside of my comfort zone. And then being in big groups who are with me I don't like. That way I can just flow. I don't mind if I'm in a big group of people I don't know, but I like to just flow around. An example of a place I really want to go to is Oman soon, both for the fly fishing, and culture, you name it. So, but the list is big. Yeah.
It's kind of impossible to ever finish that list. Looking back on your photography, what has been some of your standout images? Like some images you just look at and you're like, wow, like I can't believe I shot that. Like, do you ever have those moments?
Well, it's funny. I met with another local photographer. She's a National Geo photographer. She lives locally now, and her name's Jody McDonald. We were having coffee the other morning, and I think we were talking about older images, and I was saying, essentially, it's hard for me to like a lot of them. I kind of move on. I shoot them. I mean, I give myself a pat on the back. It's like, wow, cool. I liked it when I took it. But looking back now, it's not like, wow. That's, I think, also the drive that keeps me to want to propel myself to get stronger. I'm not even going to use the word better. And that stronger image would have that kind of emotion in it. Yeah. But looking back, I mean, there are definitely moments. I could go off tangent a little bit, and
please.
One of my first, actually it was my first cover, I did what is a faux pas. I had forgotten I did a simultaneous submission and forgot about it. So the time Catch Magazine and the Fly Fish Journal, I'd sent the same images, and editor of one of them called me up after both went to press because I'm ecstatic. I have two covers. This is early on, and read me the riot act. But I got really lucky that they both chose different images. They're published at the same time, and it was a huge learning point. And my point to this editor, who I really respect and admire to this day, was I thought I sucked. I was just sending them in, and maybe someone would pick an image, and never expected this. So it was a learning point for me. It's like, okay, I need to take some of these things I learned in the fiction world, no simultaneous submissions, kind of seriously.
Yeah. So you mean you submitted 2 photos?
So no, I submitted, let's say, 10 images to one magazine, 10 images to another.
Gotcha.
Each editor chose one as their respective cover at the same time, but they happened to be different. But,
can you imagine if they had picked the same photo?
Yeah.
How kind of amazing that would be in retrospect.
I don't know that it's ever happened, and I don't want that person to be me.
Well, it's a good lesson to learn, right? Early on, I mean,
but early on,
were there other?
You're so gung ho, and I think you still have to be where I am, that you just start sending stuff off, and you don't think about the ramifications.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It was a good learning point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a great answer too. Like looking forward, looking ahead versus looking back at photography. I mean, do you find, because you mentioned you were talking with a Nat Geo photographer about that. Like, was she in the similar mindset? Like, don't really look back on your old work. It's just more about constantly looking for the next image?
Well, I don't think there was no lesson. She wasn't saying what to do at that point. I was just saying how I felt,
Right.
and then seeing her response. And she said, I totally agree to that. It's, as far as older shots, it's like, no, I'm ready for the next new whatever it is that I can do. And to me, again, I know I'm being repetitive now, it's like how to have that image really stop someone. Even if it's 10 out of 1,000 people, like, wow, what is it here that's
doing that?
made that person to stop the scroll, or if it's in a magazine or an ad, just stop what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I don't have an answer, but that's what I'm shooting for.
No, I love that. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
How do you get inspired when you're out on the water? You know, like, do you ever get into moments like just walls, roadblocks, where you're like, you know, you're just kind of like, you're not feeling it, or
On the
or you're just
photography
kind
or
of-
both ends? You mean just fishing?
I think
the
on the
road-
photography.
yeah,
like,
but-
do you ever hit those moments?
Yeah, of course. Hit them all the time. An example would be, but I know this about myself, one of the first things I started shooting on, we have a spring creek called Silver Creek. It's this great spring creek. We have tons of bugs. And so I started doing macro shots.
Right.
And I'm kind of bored with it right now. So, but I know that about myself where, gosh, if I go down there to try and get a shot, don't worry if it doesn't happen. It's not a big deal for me. It's not the shot I want to get. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I put pressure on myself, especially locally. Like, I have this day to go try and do this, and then it doesn't happen for a variety of reasons. The person I want to shoot can't go, or maybe the weather stops a hatch, whatever it is. But yeah. So there's small hiccups that I think I've just learned to know not every day is the day to get X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. So what about in regards to fly fishing then? You know, that's an interesting question as well.
Well, the beauty is, like, for example, I have a river. No one can really see me. I could walk to within 5 minutes of where I'm sitting. And I guide it. It's called the Bigwood River, great river. But it's not a river I want to go fish every day myself. But with photography, if the weather's right and we get this huge storm and there's snow everywhere, I want to go shoot it. It's great.
Yeah.
And so I love that it's in my backyard. Just don't always need to go catch the fish that are there.
Right.
Right. It's just seizing opportunities, right? Like, just being able to recognize them and capitalize on them when they happen.
Absolutely, yeah. So the winter days are beautiful, especially after a storm or like a green dray catch in June. I love. So
Are you? I guess. So I guess it's a year round. So our seasons here, we basically get spring, summer, and a little bit of fall. Like for our trout season, is your trout season all year round? Are you guiding in the winter as well? Obviously, maybe less days, but
yeah. So April and May are the 2 months where a lot of our rivers are legally closed, except for one, the Big Lost River. So those 2 months would be the slower months. But I used to guide a lot in the winter, and I've pretty much knocked 98% of that off.
okay,
Just so as kind of photography time.
right.
Yeah, but no, you could guide now. You could guide, December over the holidays, if it's warm enough. Days under 20 degrees, the fly line turns into this bead chain. As the high, not as the low temp.
Yes,
Fahrenheit. It's just kind of a pain. So anything above 22, 24 degrees is pretty doable.
Yeah,
fun.
freezing guides is never fun.
No, that's part of it. But when the line gets caked, and it's like it's like casting telephone wire.
Yeah.
So, I guess do you like talking about seasons? Like, do you have specific seasons, or would you, like, some photographers like shooting salt, some like shooting, fresh, like some do both. Like, how do you feel about it? What's your preference when it comes to season or place to shoot?
Yeah, well, season, it's funny, winter's more of a bear for me now. Like our season right here, even though when we have snow, I love it. But as far as photography goes, I love salt and fresh. Like I have a trip coming up to Chile and Argentina. That's going to be freshwater and trout, and it's stunning. It's beautiful. But I also love saltwater. Even though I grew up on the ocean, saltwater trips are more foreign to me now, and I love it. Yeah. So I eat them both up. And I think because also really liking to participate around the culture in all those places.
Los Locos.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally.
Yeah, or wherever it is. Yeah.
How did you prepare?
So you're heading.
How did you prepare for that Marlin trip?
Well, I've been lucky.
Like, you've shot before, but it's wild.
Yeah, I did a story on it in the Drake magazine 2 or 3 years ago. Again, I'm not great with dates, so I had done it. The biggest preparation was getting the water with the marlin and the bait balls. If you've never done it, it's absolutely sublime. So I'm talking about free diving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe sent me some of those photos, and I was like, two things need to happen in my life. One, I need to buy an underwater housing. Two, I need to get my scuba.
Yeah.
Mitch has a scuba license, and he keeps bugging
Awesome.
me.
Aldo and I are going next year. We're going to go next year.
But
Together.
anyway,
Where are you
all
going?
that
Scuba diving, you mean?
Yeah,
Well,
Aldo and I.
we're trying to get
Sorry.
certified here.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should.
Because then we can do stuff like you just said, jumping in the water with marlin and bait balls to get these underwater shots.
You
Yeah,
don't
that's
need
what I was-
tanks
that's
there.
what I was
You
getting.
could dive, just free dive.
Just
that's
free
awesome.
diving, right? Yeah.
Having a weight belt helps if your camera's buoyant, but other than that, you don't
Right.
need tanks. So we're going with
That's
that. You
a
guys should do it.
ridiculous experience, man. That is a crazy
That's
what
insane,
is that? What is that like? Like, that's got to be such a rush.
Well, yeah, the first time I did it was only 3-4 years ago, and I'd say it was sublime. I mean, you're out in the blue water, meaning you're not really close to land. I think at the time we were 20 miles outside of these barrier islands, so maybe 35 miles away from where we put off. And I was the only guy with gear, like, snorkel, mask, fins. And the captain said, hop in here. It's like, what? It's like, it's kind of like jumping out of an airplane. It's like, hop in here.
Totally.
And you do it. Because from the boat, it's not always easy, especially if there's wind, to see the bait ball. But fish are going by quickly. And they're lit up in this neon blue. And you just go, oh my gosh. So, I mean, right away, you just go, I hope I don't get hit when I jump in. So you hop in, and all of a sudden, the world, to me, slowed down. It's this sublime. It's mainly it's quiet. The speed, the rush of being on the surface is kind of gone, and it's wow. I mean, there are points when you want to get out of the water, when it's no longer super safe. An example would be when the bait ball, it's kind of counterintuitive, gets really, really small. Typically, the mornings, the bait balls are huge. The marlin push the bait from depth up to the surface, and they work on it over the course of the day with sea lions, sometimes sharks, but mainly sea lions and marlin, sometimes sailfish, dorado, wahoo, but in any event, they'll work on it over the course of the day. And as it gets smaller, usually it's sea lions that'll break the bait ball up. That's when you don't want to be in the water. If it's a small ball, the fish have dispersed. Every marlin is going 1,000,000 miles an hour every direction. And they don't want to hit you, but it could happen at that point. So you just need to recognize before that happens, okay, time to get out of the water.
Time to get out.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so by a bait ball, you obviously mean like a big school, like cloud of fish.
Usually it's small. Well, when I say small, a bigger fish would be a mackerel that might be 13 inches. That'd be a bigger one. And then really, sometimes the sardines are maybe 4 inches, 5 inches on the smaller side. Maybe 3.
Jeez.
Yeah, but hundreds of thousands of them just spinning around. And they would call it a static bait ball. So that's when the bait ball is surrounded by predators, sea lions, marlin, and it's not really moving fast. And there are birds over them. So to find them, you see these birds, and the lower the birds are, it's like, there they are. Bring it on.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't
crazy.
envy being an anchovy
No.
Yeah,
or a
no
sardine.
kidding.
It's like everything is just killing.
You're just getting torqued by birds and fish, and there's a guy photographing you. You're like, ah.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was going. Was like, I saw those images and I was like, it was. Well, I gotta say, Nick, it was inspiring. I was like, I want to, hopefully one day in my life get to do that.
Well, we should do it. Yeah. I mean, it is, for me, being underwater now, even though I don't dive really, is sublime. It's this place I would definitely want to spend more time. Like I was able to, I know this is moving on, free dive with a bunch of sharks in Cuba in May. And it was,
Saw those photos.
it was on my list, and I ended up doing it every day. And the experience was incredible, kind of akin to this marlin thing.
So there's obviously a rush to catching a fish and holding a fish out of the water, but like talking about just hanging out with fish in their habitat, like is that something you're kind of more drawn to now? Like,
100
could you see
times more
yourself
drawn
getting
to.
more?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been lucky now to have caught a bunch of fish, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. And there's, but I'd much rather be in the water, sharing it, hopefully protecting some of these places. Like Mag Bay, the shark fishing is terrible. And when I say over, I mean people, little villages killing thousands and thousands of sharks just for fins. Not that we need to go down that road. So, yeah, like I said.
No, I mean, hey.
Go ahead.
No, it's got. I mean, yeah, it's good to talk about, and I think it is really interesting, like getting to swim with the fish instead of the fishing part, like there's something cool about it. I mean, I've never done the salt stuff. It sounds insanely amazing.
It is insanely amazing. But a summer ago, I also got into this local river that's right down the street here, and I'd get into the pools when it was warm without a wetsuit with my housing and just hold on to something on the bottom and photograph. It was awesome. So how do these trout react to you when you're in the water? What do they do?
Yeah.
If you stir up the bottom, do they go away? Do they come closer? All that stuff.
Were they hanging out with you, like the little trout?
Yeah, I already knew that would kind of happen because I grew up doing that on the Middle Fork of the salmon too. I'd get in the river, swim around, and I go, when you kick up the bottom, all these bugs, nymphs, kind of, it's like this chum line that makes the fish just start eating.
You're like their best friend. They're like, oh, this guy's awesome. Yeah. It's like when Permit follow is a ray.
Oh, the ray.
Yeah.
And there's something called the San Juan Shuffle. I don't know if you've heard of that too. Mm-hmm. Where fishermen stir up the bottom on purpose in hopes to bring the fish in. Yeah. But
got it. The San Juan
kind of thing.
Shuffle. That's so cool.
Man,
like
that's
being
great.
immersed in their environment, it's like it adds a whole other layer to your eye really. And the way and your perspective. It affords perspective, right?
Yeah, I think you learn more about the whole fishery too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've caught so many fish out of this river that's down the street that, I'm far more motivated to go hop in, see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah, and you see the fish together, which is always I've always found that to be weird to see, like, speaking of freshwater, seeing like a big pike swimming next to like a little bass and they're just hanging out. And it's like, shouldn't you be eating that?
He's full.
Fish.
He or she is full.
They're all just hanging out. It's such a weird, you're like, oh yeah, like this ecosystem that exists beneath the surface is like, I actually don't really understand it, like once you are in it, you're like, oh, this is like totally different from what I thought.
Well, a lot of us don't. And I think that's one of the biggest things about, I'm going to go to a kid's book real quick. Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
And it's called McGilligan's Pool. I don't know if you guys have seen it, read it to your kids, but the first line, the first page of this book is a kid with like a stick with some line on it, sitting on an upside down bucket next to a puddle. And I'm talking about a puddle that's maybe 3 feet wide, holding it, hoping to catch a fish. And this farmer comes by and says, young man, you're sort of a fool to be fishing McGilligan's Pool. And the concept is that the kid's imagination was so big, never stripped the imagination from that kid. Who cares if there are no fish in that pool? The kid thought there were, and that's what's important there.
It's true. Yeah, that is kind of a cool way to think about, like, there's like a mystery in what's below the surface. And I think that's always what I think a lot of people are drawn to fishing because of that, like what's down there, what can happen. Like, it's such a cool thing.
I'm like right on his permit shot, speaking of down there, and I rarely see such a beautiful underwater permit shot. Sorry to like segue here, but you were just talking about that.
Underwater shots are cool. And on that end, it's kind of nice that a lot of the industry is now not publishing quite as many above the water shots.
Yeah.
It's kind of moving conversationally a little bit.
That's true.
But,
well, I mean, it's interesting, like how how can you capture more ethically, I mean, with the whole keep fish wet movement, it's like, well, how do you, like, why pose at all? Like, just that's what I always think about, like, when we shoot, when we're shooting motion anyway. Mm-hmm. I find when people like present it to the camera, it breaks the fourth wall in a bad way for me anyway. It's like, well, you wouldn't do that if you were on the river alone, so why are you doing that when there's this camera around, and what's my point here? I guess my point
just naturally holding a fish. I think I know where you're going, but go ahead.
I think I'm going like the original thought was more like, how, like, to your point, how do we capture fish, not only not staging it, but also so that the fish are like alive at the end of the day, like if we're gonna be like, and then shooting them in the water obviously is the best version of that. Absolutely, ethically, I think Mitch just said, but also in a way that you might do it less like a trophy. How about that? Holding it with respect
caring
Yes.
for it, hoping it survives the next moment, hoping it has a great next
Yep.
winter. Truly, it's like
Yep.
I feel grateful, even if it's not the biggest fish or the prettiest fish.
That's a really cool point that we're
That's-
hitting on. Like,
yeah.
is that part of your shooting? Like, you're trying to shoot that way? Because a lot of, like, I mean, we speak to people sometimes that are like, yeah, like we stage it as much as we can to get that best framing of the fish, but it might not be good for the fish.
Oh,
and it's
got
like,
it. Yeah.
is that,
Well,
is that worth it?
So yeah, that might go back to my documentary. Like underwater, I've had so many chances, and I've screwed up 99% of them. But you learn when the person releases the fish, do I want to shoot into the sun? And so that's my option.
Right.
It's all happening right then and there. They're going to let the fish go within seconds. Where do I want to
Yep.
stand? So I might tell them in the ocean, if you don't mind, it's actually probably better for the fish, walk with the fish. So we get into clear
Yep.
water. The fish is underwater. I choose on what side to stand on this person, and boom, it happens just like that. And if I screw up, well, that's on me, and I need to kind
Yeah.
of improve
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
next time.
Yeah, I like that.
And
There are a few little things you can do, right? But it is like, yeah, you're still always like, if I didn't get it, I didn't get it.
Well, I love shooting into the sun underwater. So the person
Yeah,
holding the
it's- yeah, it looks
fish,
cool.
I'll just say, no, I'm trying to do this. Don't you just naturally hold this thing as though you would normally do
your
it.
thing.
I'm on this side of you, and yeah, we're going to go from
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, the Marlin thing's a little different just because they're so big.
Yeah.
And I feel a little guilty when they're caught. I mean, they're exhausted. But some of these techniques these days, as far as playing fish from the hip, lot like big tarpon,
Yeah.
and getting them in quicker, you can see the color on the fish that are caught. That it's the color's just still there.
I've seen some pink on
cool.
tarpon. I've seen some pink and some trouty kind of colors on tarpon before. But
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
yeah, they
One
just,
thing you
things,
you probably
From
would
the-
be surprised to know. Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I was going to say I'm deadly colorblind. So I
Oh,
don't
really?
that's- on the pink thing, I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even know where
Yeah.
to start on that one.
It's funny. One of my one of the photographers we work with, Idaho, he's got some color blindness too, and he takes some of the best photos. You know.
Yeah, I don't know that it's really too much of hardship. It is a post. You should ask him about that. If
Yeah.
editing,
Yeah.
is kind of
Yeah,
a,
it's the
a bummer
editing.
a little
It's
bit.
the editing. Yeah, it's the editing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's where I suffer.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Again, everybody listening, check out Nick Price Photography. Okay, Nick, we do something at the end of the show with every guest, and it's called Mitchie's Fishies 5.
Yep.
And it's just 5 more questions, kind of just general, broad fly fishing questions. So we'll ask you those right now.
Good to
So the
go.
first of Mitchie's Fishies 5 is, what is your favorite fish and why? If you had to pick a favorite fish, what would it be?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm going to give you 3 quick answers. One is
Okay.
one I love new.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
maybe a GT. I've never caught a GT. So, but
yeah,
is that my favorite fish? I don't know. But so I'm going to go with new. And then in freshwater brown trout and
Yeah.
the places they live, like I'm obsessed with the South Island of New Zealand. I could go back there over and over and over again. Clear water, the strength, how smart they are, the way they look. So on that, and then I'd say in the ocean, salt, I love roosterfish. Perfect.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, yeah, the sport, the
Oh, yeah.
perfect,
Sick.
badass steroid sport fish, especially from the beach.
Mohawk.
They aren't always
Yeah.
easy. What's that? Oh, the mohawk.
Yeah.
Mohawk.
Yeah.
Badass.
Yeah.
God, rooster fish are cool. It's like my number one thing I want to catch right now. They're so cool looking.
Oh, and they're just steroided up. I think they're really smart, and they'll turn away on a fly at the last second, and I think they can hear well. You know, if you're screaming from the beach. Anyway, I think it's a fun fish, and the places you find it are really, really cool.
Yeah. Great answer. Yeah. Hey, fresh and salt. If you had to pick between fresh and salt, like let's say you could only fish one of these fish the rest of your life, is it browns or is it roosters?
Ooh, good question. I'm thinking about the places they live, by the way, more than the fish
Yeah.
themselves.
Totally.
I mean,
Totally.
Yeah, I live with brown trout, so I don't know. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to move. How about that? Even though I
Yeah.
love roosterfish, so I'll stick with browns.
All right. We won't. Yeah. That's a good one. Browns are, you can always love a good brown. Okay. Number 2 is, if you could fish anywhere in the world right now, assuming it's the best time of year to go there, like peak season, where would you go and why would you go there?
Yeah, well, then I'll just go. I think I alluded to it earlier because I'm into places I've never been. And Oman's on my list. I was actually trying to get there this December. It didn't happen. So
Yeah.
I think, I would go with that, even though there are a
That'd be
lot
awesome.
on that list. And that's what's cool. I think culturally, In addition, it's the permit fishing that, excuse me, the permit fishing that would be the draw. 2 species of permit. I'm more excited about getting them off the beach, and then visiting Bedouin villages and taking images and dirt roads and the whole experience.
Yeah, the souks. Do they have souks there?
I mean, yeah.
Is that what they call it? The markets? Call it souks?
Yeah, the market. Yeah, they do. I don't know if they're in smaller towns. They've got to be in smaller towns. I don't know what point you stop seeing them, but yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
That'll be beautiful.
Yeah, that'd be a heck of a destination. Okay, number 3 is, what's one of your best or favorite fishing memories from over the years? Like something that just stands out in your mind as,
Good
oh,
question.
I'm so happy that moment happened, you know?
Yeah, I've actually never been asked that. Like a fishing.
I mean, you know, we've got so many. It's such a broad, tough thing to answer because as anglers, you know, we're constantly chasing the next one. But
no, I'm trying to give you a good answer, not just come up with any old answer.
Yes.
What if you?
We appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many good ones. I mean, I can think I could go. We could have this conversation for hours, especially as a guide, from silly moments to really meaningful. Yeah, a trip to Cuba. I don't know how much time we have, but it just came to me. This trip to Cuba I was on in May. Every time I went free dove with with sharks after fishing, we'd go flats fishing for the day. We were on a live aboard yacht, and the skiffs would take off and fish. We'd come in after fishing at, like, say 4:30 p.m. The captain of the boat, who's been diving this Jardines de la Reina area for 25 years, said, "Nick, do you want to go free dive?" I'd say yes. We happen to have a doctor on board, a Cuban doctor, who was there because of COVID reasons. He's super sweet, incredible human. He kept going with me and the captain. None of the guys in my crew, actually by day 3, some of the guys in my crew wanted to go. Doesn't matter. The doctors started coming. He got in the water on day 3 and he just wigged out. He was a little scared, but he just said, "This is insane." So coming back after day 3, he's kind of in tears on our liveaboard yacht. And, you know, this is a doctor. He's a grown man. He's 60 years old. And he's up in the helm where we're moored, so the boat's not moving. And he's kind of crying.
Yeah.
And he doesn't speak a lot of English, and my Spanish is kindergarten at best. And I kind of go, you know, "Why are you upset?" And he goes, "Well, my phone was in my pocket when I went in the water."
Oh.
And all the 4 of us are thinking, "Oh, I just ruined a phone. It's going to cost me $300. And I went, "Oh my gosh." Phone to this guy. He said, "Doc, what do you make a month?" I already thought I knew the answer, and he said $30 a month. I said, "What's it cost you to replace this phone in Cuba?" And he said, forget it was $400 or $500. And I, you know, do the math quickly. A year at his salary is $360.
Yeah.
And he's just he needs it for work. He gets paid, whatever, and he's in a terrible way. So I just go, "Doc, hang on." I go talk to a few guys in my group. Within 5 minutes, we have the money for him, and we hand over let's say it's $400, and we go get yourself a new phone. And he broke down. He couldn't believe it.
Wow.
The generosity. So I think in addition to hitting home to me on people who have such big hearts with nothing, it also really hit home to the other guys in my group. I think there are 9 of them, 1 of me. So all these other guys are going, "This doctor really does make $30 a month. It's not just like a myth or a newspaper article. You're standing with this guy who has." Same with the guide. So
now you're seeing it.
Yeah, so that would be one. But it was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wild. Yeah, I mean that's I guess that's a big part of, you know, what you do. It's so cool to be able to have these experiences with, like you said earlier, with just people, you know.
Yeah, and a small continuation, I'll keep it short, is the following day, this doctor hit it off with us, and in the skiff going out to the sharks, he said, "Nick," to the captain, kind of, we're doing Spanish, bad English, whatever, "we want to play a joke on your crew." So I said, "Okay, what do you want to do? Like, what are you thinking?" He said, "Well, I have all this fake blood, this cleaning solution if someone gets, you know, really, really cut up, and I have a lot of gauze, I have a lot of suture, or all these bandages.
Yeah.
And we're going to pretend as though you were hit by a shark when we come in." And so they peppered the bow of the boat of the skiff with blood. They bandaged my leg up, and they radioed in. The 2 people on board the liveaboard knew it was a prank, but I came in hot with fake blood and everything, and the doctor just fell down laughing, and it was fun for him.
That's
Anyway,
wicked.
yeah.
I love that.
Wow.
I love that. Man, what an eventful trip. There's so many things happening on that trip. It sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, you got to just let it all go and have fun, I think.
Totally. No doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4, Mitchie's Fishies 5 is, why do you fly fish? We kind of talked about this a little bit, but like, what is it about fly fishing that keeps you going out?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to answer my answer now rather than what I did then. And
Yeah.
I think I call it present tense syndrome. And for me, fly fishing now, I could be with someone. So if I'm the photographer with the camera, I'm fly fishing, if that makes sense. So I'm counting that as fishing. Like this trip to Magdalena Bay. I have the camera, but we're out there marlin fishing. I'm not thinking about anything else. So the combination of present tense syndrome and where you are, I mean, in these rad places. I mean, it could be my backyard, the Bigwood River, Silver Creek, or in this case, Pacific Ocean in Mexico, Cuba, wherever, not thinking about worries, or unless it parlays into what we're doing at
To the
time.
fishing.
Yeah. So present tense
that's
and
great.
beauty.
I like that present tense syndrome. Yeah, you're just like locked into the moment. You know, you can't do anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that.
It's great.
I guess you can. It's a choice. It's kind of like meditation.
Yeah.
You can choose to do whatever in your mind. And it's
Totally.
healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Absolutely is. Especially for people that are constantly thinking about, you mentioned ADD earlier, people that are constantly thinking about other things, it's such a great way to kind of like just check out and just like meditate. You're right.
Yeah, so it's not the race to catch the fish. The fish is the bonus.
Yeah.
And once you hit that mindset, probably easier said than done. It's like, like you're there. Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
I still remember Tulum with Aldo, and that like if I didn't relax and just have and just was in the moment, I don't think I would have caught any fish. I'd be too concerned, So even though there was a plethora of fish, but
Yeah, I think early on everyone wants to just catch them all because it's that imagination that there's more than just an infinite number of fish out there. It's not the case.
Totally.
But,
Totally. Yeah. Okay, number 5, Mitchie's Fishies 5 is what fly pattern represents you best and why? Like if you were a fly, what would you be?
Oh, I'm just on the simple when it comes. So fly tying, a lot of my friends who travel with me know that I don't get caught up in crazy patterns. Even though as a guide, I like having these flies that I think work. So I'm more on the functional, and I love parachute Adams. I love dry fly.
Oh,
nice.
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 Love it.
It's a hot topic these
Nice.
days.
Parachute Adams.
That's Mitch's answer, but non-parachute.
It's Mitch's. Wait,
Yeah.
say that again?
Yeah, my answer was just a regular Adams,
Oh,
non-parachute.
wow.
But yeah, that's funny.
Nice.
That's cool,
So we're
man.
close.
I dig it.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah.
You're even more traditional than me. Old school.
Yeah,
That's Mitch though, man. Mitch is like
is.
bamboo rods, a cigar,
Vests.
and a vest.
Nice.
I probably would fish a parachute Adam more though. I mean, I love a good parachute. Great answer, man. I love it. Nick, thanks so much for coming on, man. Like honestly, it's been super fun chatting, and
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I mean, we could
No,
talk
it's-
for days. Like you've got so many friggin' cool stories, and I mean, hey, maybe we should do this again sometime. But live would be awesome to get together in person, and do a show.
No, that
maybe
would
someplace
be,
crazy.
That would be awesome. Yeah, go free diving with
Yeah.
Marlin somewhere.
Totally.
Oh,
That'd
Maybe
be
try and
sweet,
catch a
man.
few.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Nick, this is the part of the show where it's this shameful plug time. Where can people find your photography? How can people find you? How can people book you as a guide?
Yeah, well, so answering kind of backward. Well, actually, we'll go from the beginning. So just nickpricephotography.com is my website. I really use, I think Instagram's really the main social I use, Nick Price Photographies. And then they can find me as a guide there too. So on my website, I have
perfect.
my phone number, emails there, you name it. Yeah. So those two platforms
Perfect.
really are what I use.
Yeah, we'll put those both in the show notes as well. So check those out if you're looking for the links. But yeah, Nick, thanks again, man, for coming on.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
been
awesome.
fun. I always love talking.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Gills Fly Fishing International. Gills Fly Fishing International provides the destination fly fishermen with the best personalized trip planning and booking experiences possible. And they run FFI Magazine, an online fly fishing magazine with articles from your favorite fly fishing writers. The magazine is filled with tips, trips, and tightline stories to get you jacked for your next adventure out on the water. Visit flyfishinginternational.com to learn more. That's flyfishinginternational.com. Wow, Nick is such a cool dude.
Yeah, it really is.
He had so many stories, and like, man, we could talk for like 3 hours. I mean, definitely got to do another show with him. What do you think about that, Aldo?
I think it's great.
Sorry, I had something in my
Oh,
eye.
I'm not Aldo.
Aldo's sleepy
That's how
'cause
much
he's
he
been-
enjoyed it.
Aldo's sleepy because he's been working at Sippin' Santa in Toronto, pop-up tropical bar.
Yep.
How's it going? You must be exhausted.
It's good. It's good. We're recording this on December 18th. Even though this is coming out on New Year's. Again, Happy New Year's, everybody.
Happy New Year. Yeah.
Happy
everybody
New
had a
Year.
good. Hope everybody had a good New Year. But yeah, it's good. I mean, we are on pay. It's a charity. The proceeds all go to charity, and I think we're gonna be able to donate almost like $30,000
That's awesome.
to a local
That's
women's
amazing.
shelter, which is pretty cool. But yeah, you're right. I do get home at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, so I'm a little sleepy. I'm a little.
Was it a busy
sleepy.
night last night down there? At
It
Sippin'?
was. For everybody in Ontario, yesterday some more restrictions
Yeah.
were announced, and they don't go into effect until tomorrow, being Sunday, December 19th. And I think it's like everyone's like, "Oh shit,
Yeah.
I better go party now because in 2 days I'm not gonna be able to party."
Gonna party.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
last
Party
night
at
was a
home.
party.
Yeah. Jeez, eh?
Yeah.
Well, everybody, yeah. Happy New Year. Where we hit it on the Happy New Year, everybody out there.
Yeah. Speaking of those restrictions, I better go to
the
Drift like
radio land.
now.
Yeah, you got to slide down to Drift. Get some. What are you going to Drift? What are you getting, Yelma?
I'm gonna get some pink Clousers and I was gonna get a carrying case, but I think Aldo will do me the favor to carry my rods on the flight on his case.
We're taking different flights, you idiot.
I know, but we're meeting at the same place, man.
Okay.
I don't know. I gotta
Get
talk to him.
a
but
rod case. Get a
I don't know
rod
if I
case.
want to
Yelma. Let's
spend the
get to have-
money. I've been
I need
doing
to
really
get
good.
one too.
You also only need to bring one rod.
That's
I was
true.
but I wanted to bring Mitch's 8 or somebody's.
You wanna
8 just
take
to
one
have
of my
2. What if I
rods?
break my 8?
Is this how
Well,
you
then
ask
you
me?
have
Well,
mine.
Yeah, but then what
I
if
don't wanna
I
lend
break
you my
that
rod.
one?
I'm not lending you my rod if you're worried about breaking it. What is going on? No way. No way,
we'll
Jose.
talk all day. We'll talk.
We'll talk. We're talking right now. You just have to bring one rod.
Yeah, but we're on air. How many rods are you bringing?
7.
I'll probably bring
Aldo
one
never
or-
leaves home without 7 rods.
Yeah, I'm
true.
probably going to bring 7 rods. I don't know. I'll
All
probably bring
15
2.
weight, 23 footers.
Yeah. Mitch, can I borrow one of your 8 weights? Is that okay?
Oh, my God.
I don't know. You can take my loop one if you want. Take the booster.
Yeah.
Take my loop booster.
Yeah, I love the booster. No? Okay. Well, it's either Mitch lend me a rod or
Yeah,
Atis lend me
it's
his
the
8
holiday
weight.
section. If you're going to gift yourself a rod, what would you get right now? What kind of rod would you be?
I want to honestly.
What kind of
like, I'm
rod
going
would
to
you
tri-
be? What kind of rod would you buy?
I want I would love a.
If you were a fishing
don't
rod,
you have
what
a
would you
9-weight?
be?
No, I don't. I have a 10 and an 8.
Oh, right.
But I would love a 3-weight butter stick from Reddington for
Yeah,
trout
those are really
season.
good for bonefish.
No, I'm saying he just said he was just saying like, he's saying in general. But to
generals.
Aldo's point there, I would probably get a 9-weight from Reddington. I forget which one it was. I think it's called a Predator.
Yeah, those are dope
Yeah,
rods.
man.
But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
with you,
Yeah.
man. That butter stick is like I love mine. It's super fun to do little dry flies on for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
go.
I mean, trout season in Ontario, it's going to come up pretty quick on us, I know it's only January, but it's going to be here soon, It's the new
4
year.
months. It's really just 4 months away.
It's 4 months away. And in that 4 months, we're going to ice fish and run around in the snow. And then in February, March, we'll just kind of like stay inside crying and tying flies. And then it'll
We
be
should tie
here,
flies
so.
in the ice hut.
Totally. 100%. We'll do a tying night in the backyard. 100%.
But that's actually, you know what? That's a good. That's actually a bit of a fun question, Mitch. If you were going
Or
to
a
treat
rod.
yourself to let's say a Christmas bonus fly rod, what
Yeah.
what would you get? Because it's fun
good
talking
question.
about shopping on new rods.
I've always wanted a TNT. Obviously, they're also slogan. It's one of my favorite slogans ever. The rod you'll eventually own. I think that's like such an amazing tagline. But friggin', what would I want? I mean, Reddington. I need to get some new waders, and I'm on.
I don't know if that's the tagline. I think it's the last rod you'll ever own. I think that's the tagline.
No, it's the rod
no,
you'll
it's
eventually own.
The rod you'll eventually own. Isn't that so good?
I'll just go.
I kind of want a butter stick too. I don't know. They're just such fun little rods. They're so cool.
I will.
looking.
Yeah.
I will say, like when Gene brought the 6-weight to Texas,
Yeah.
and ended up gifting it to Joe, which was very nice, Gene, of you.
Yeah.
Putting a redfish on the 6-weight fiberglass was awesome.
Oh man, that is cool.
It was
That is
like
cool.
it sent red fishing to another level. But I love.
It was a 6-weight butter stick.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's what
that's
I want
cool.
for bass. I want to get that for
Yeah.
bass.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Oh,
That's what I
the
want.
bass when I did that little bass pond with Aaron in Texas, I brought that.
Yeah.
I brought that rod. Poppers
man.
on the fiberglass 6-weight.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's what I want. I want a 6-weight butter stick. That's what I want.
Final-
And then a
That's
cool
final answer.
reel. And that's what I would get for bass season. I'm gonna buy one. I'm buying one. 100%.
That's it. He's buying one.
I'm buying one. I'm buying a butter stick for bass. If you can see us, we're all throwing our hands in the air right now. We're freaking out.
Oh my god, that's amazing!
What would you get, Aldo? What rod are you gonna get?
You know, I have many, but I don't have a 9-weight.
Right, of course.
Why do I want a 9-weight? I don't need one.
Right.
But who needs anything except for, like we were talking about the other day, a 9-foot 8-weight? If you
All
don't
you
have a
need is a
9-foot
9-foot
8-weight, especially being in Ontario, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? Like, people listening, like, if you disagree, like, send us an email freaking out. But I'm saying all you need in Ontario is a 9-foot 8-weight rod. You can fish everything with that if you wanted to, you know?
It presents those parachute atoms really well.
Yeah, you just kind of dip them down. Everything else is just noise. But you know, yeah, you're gonna get. So you want to get a 9-weight though.
I would say if there's a hole in the lineup, it's the 9-weight.
Yeah.
And specifically for this trip to the Bahamas, because you can
totally.
you can get double digit.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Bonefish.
Double digit bonefish, which that sounds insane to me.
Yeah.
Also, I think Yilma gets there a little bit later on the first day, which isn't a fish day. It wasn't supposed to be a fish day, but I think the plan now is to go snapper fishing in the the deeper water.
Right.
So while we wait for Yilma, and we're gonna catch some snapper and eat it.
Ooh, eat it. Yay. Thanks
Like,
for
we're gonna-
catching my dinner.
Well, yeah, exactly. We're literally catching dinner for you while you're flying in.
Amazing.
So yeah, I don't know. 9-weight. I think a 9-weight would be cool. I don't know,
And Yelma,
man.
Yelma wants a butter stick too.
Yeah,
We're buttered up. We're all buttered up.
Mm-hmm.
We're all
Oliver's already
buttered.
got a butter stick.
Yeah, 3-weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love it.
So yeah, but I love talking
Cool.
about. It's fun talking about gear.
Of
Who
course.
doesn't love
of
buying
course.
gear?
I know, it is fun. I mean,
New
Idis
gear.
loves buying gear.
I
Idis
just
constantly
I just
texting me
hates
links.
buying gear.
Constantly texting me links to gear. He's just
I've never
downstairs
seen
just
somebody
looking at gear.
shopping so much for gear.
He loves his gear. He's a gear
He
guy.
does. He's a gear guy.
Loves
for
gear.
He's a gear guy.
Well, geez, everybody. I think that's it. I think another show in the bags.
Sure. Okay. Let me
Nick,
know if you need
thank you
anything
so
at Drift.
much.
I'm going now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't right now, but I'm going to actually, I kind of do need some tying stuff. So we'll talk. But Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was awesome getting to
Great
chat.
show.
Everybody check out his Instagram, Nick Price Photography. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Happy New Year. Stay tuned because we got a ton of content from last year coming out. Esnagami Lodge, Texas Fit videos, fishing with Jeff Jackson in Ottawa. We've got a ton of stuff coming out,
Yeah.
and it's our edit season. So stay tuned for that. We'll be releasing some videos, pictures along the way, and stay tuned also for our next show, which will be all on our trip to the Bahamas, which we're going on
Literally
very soon.
As this
Is
airs.
out, we're there. So stay tuned because that's going to be one heck of a program for you. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening. That's it for me, Mitch. Aldo,
program.
Aldina.
It's gonna be a heck of a program here, folks. I love it. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Yelp.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, same here. Happy New Year, and thanks for listening.
Everybody listening at home, take care. You can find all of our content at sofly.ca. Reach out via email by sending your questions or comments to info@sofly.ca. Find us on Instagram at the SoFly Crew. Thanks for listening.